because I do have some negative habits I'm trying to get rid of.
Trying, right? We have doing or we have not doing. So if you can commit yourself to it, it creates certainty, you see.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of Mental Roots. Change of scenery. I am here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm in a different location from usual. I'm in my office. I'm at work. Oh, camera's gone dark. Oh, there we go. I'm in my office at work. Obviously, I'm on a bit of a break now, so I'm just taking time. I decided to bring my microphone with me and just switch things up. What I love about what I do as a content creator is I've got the means to create anywhere I want, really. And I think the way we approach work as well needs to be from a place of joy. Like I don't want to I don't want to compartmentalize my life too much. My work, in elements of my work there's play, in elements of my play there's work, it all goes hand in hand. But anyway, thanks for joining for episode 19 of season 2. And if you've been following on Instagram, you see that I've been celebrating 200 followers. So last week I took a break. As of the time you're hearing this, last week I took a break from releasing just to celebrate, and I needed it really just to catch up on the backlog of editing. But now we're here, we're in the final interview of season 2. So this episode and the next 2 episodes after is the final interview where I interview 2 people. This is the first time I've interviewed 2 people at once. During season 2, I did that last season with Paul Kazadi and R.T. Hines. That was the last time I had 2 guests in one conversation, so go and check that out. But yeah, today we are talking with the A-Game Consultancy. They are a coaching and wellness business. So they make a living just coaching people professionally, giving professional coaching just to help people, get further in life. So similar to what Patrick Hill does. If you know about our conversation with Patrick Hill, he's another coach that I've interviewed as well. Go and check that out earlier in this season. But obviously this is the first part of our conversation where we delve really into who they are, and some interesting topics come up, as you can see in the title. Stuff to do with body image, stuff to do with really dissecting mental health from a mindset perspective, the beliefs and the things that we tell ourselves. I know the camera's gone dark again, there we go. The different sayings that we normalize in our minds and how we need to combat those beliefs. So we focus particularly on mindset in this part. Before we hop into it, make sure you make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're on any podcast platform and you're just listening, make sure you follow or subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening to. And as always, on Spotify specifically, there's a poll or a question that is attached to this episode. So if you just look on the page, you'll see a poll for this episode. Please interact with that. Let me know how you guys feel about the subject matter and what your thoughts are as well. You'll notice that the A-Game Consultancy, their social media details are in the written description for this episode. And it's 3 guys, all by the name Adam, so they're all called Adam. They are white men as well, so this is my second time having white men as guests. But of course, they have that coaching and mental health expertise that will help anyone, including young black men, which is obviously the target demographic for this podcast. So lots of transferable and applicable stuff, for them to share, really. But make sure you follow them, make sure that you interact with their content as well. And if you need professional coaching, they're a great option to consider. There are 3 of them, but I was only able to interview 2 of them. So Adam Mayhew is the guy that unfortunately couldn't be with us at this particular day, but hopefully Adam Mayhew, if you're listening to this, I'll get back to you when I'm ready and we'll get a conversation going, particularly on nutrition, because if I remember correctly, I think that's Mr. Mayhew's expertise. But I had a chat with Adam Hindley and Adam Smith, so 2/3 of the A-Game Consultancy. And without much further ado, let's get into it. There we go. So, hey guys, we've got 2/3 of the A-Game Consultancy here with us. So yeah, it's great to have you guys. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling today?
Awesome,
I'm awesome, mate.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
No problem, and thank you for being open. I think, if I remember correctly, I think we met through Clubhouse. So there's quite a few mental health rooms that I'm in. I think it was the Mendable group or something like that. It might have been the men's mental health group. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, no, that's right, mate. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's a room that we started in probably February of this year, and we were consistent for every single day for about 8 weeks. We showed up and, put on a safe space for people. We met some incredible people, heard some inspiring, hilarious, harrowing stories on that. And then we took a bit of a break from it because we actually realized it was impacting our mental health as well. Some of the stories out there were very, very difficult to listen to. So we had a little break from it and then went back on probably, maybe July time for a couple of months, maybe a little bit longer, until about, late August. And then again, just decided to take a little break from it. But yeah, it was a great app, and it brought so many people together. And, our room, we believe, genuinely helps save lives as well.
Yeah, I've been involved with it as well, and Adam H, will be great to maybe hear your perspective on it as well. But just again, it's one of the many things that have been started during the COVID season, where we're seeing a lot of men being of various ages and ethnicities and backgrounds sharing what they've been through, and I can definitely agree with that. Like, some of the stories we hear, it's like, if they didn't have a platform like this, what would have happened? And it's quite a sobering thing to think about. So yeah, Adam H, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of why we made the room in the first place is we wanted to give men in particular a safe place to talk about the stuff that we needs to be talked about, because as much as we may all think about it, like, in society, men are told that you need to be the bread provider, you need to be strong, whatever strong means, and you need to hide your emotions, because if you show your emotions, then that's a sign of weakness in some crazy world. So we need to change this narrative. And if men actually are vulnerable and they show some emotion, then often you find, as soon as I talk to someone actually openly and have a genuine conversation about it, they tend to open up about things they're going through as well. And people need that space, and they need people in general to be vulnerable to them, so that they can then feed off that vulnerability and feed back with it as well. Because I'm a massive believer in the to show true strength and to be truly strong, you need to show vulnerability and you need to show resilience. And there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot of stuff in their lives and a lot of bad things that have happened, and they've got back up again and they've kept going. And that's the resilience part of it. But then showing the vulnerability and talking about the issues that they've gone through and talking about the challenges that they've faced, that's the survival guide for the people's struggles that are going through it right now. So vulnerability is so important, and that's what the aim was with the Clubhouse room, to really progress and move forward and create this new narrative around mental health, and mental health particularly in men, and then taking it even a level further, talking about it in the openness about the demographic of what you target with your podcast in black men in the black community. That is going to be even higher on the scale, really, and people really need, like yourself, doing things like this, need to talk about it more.
Yeah, for sure. So with that being said, guys, just introduce yourselves, what your particular practices are, and maybe just a fun fact about you as well.
Sure.
So any of you can go first. Yeah.
We're from a business called A-Game Consultancy. So it's a health and wellbeing company that specializes in improving people's internal, physical, and mental health. This is typically done through an 8-week program with group coaching added on as well. So I myself am the life coach. So it's not me telling you how to live your life. It's very much having your life as it is right now and making some adjustments to it. So it might be morning routine, creating new habits. It could be everything from unlocking earliest childhood memories and past trauma in order to give it a new meaning. So the topics and things that I help people with are vast. The other Adam Mayhew, who's not on the call, is our nutritionist, and he's also an ultra marathon runner. So he's very, very good at the mindset side of stuff as well. Fun fact about me is I can read backwards.
Really? Read backwards
really
as
well.
in like literally the text back to front, or from
so like recording is Ganid Rocker.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. You've got an ambidextrous
really
brain there. Nice.
Yeah, I've got dyspraxia, you see, and I used to get so bored at school of people talking at me because I don't retain information when it's been done just through the spoken word. I have to have repetition, and obviously you don't have that luxury at school. So it used to be written down, sometimes even worse, on a blackboard, and you'd look up and you'd lose your place. So I got so bored of reading the words forwards, I just started reading them backwards to test my brain out that way. So I can read very quickly backwards. It's very strange.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome. It's crazy. When he first told us that, it was it was crazy. But yeah, a little bit of background about me. My name's Adam Hindley. I'm the third Adam in the A-Game trio. So it's crazy in itself that all three of us are called Adam. But my background's kind of physical health. So I'm a personal trainer and physiotherapist is what my degree's in. So everything from I've worked with everyone from kind of like your average Joes to your Olympians. I've worked with like a massive range of people. And often what I see is that you need to fix the mentality towards injuries or the mentality towards exercise. As soon as you get the mindset right, the body's a byproduct. The body becomes the byproduct of what you're doing. So it linked in with everything together. Like A-Game in itself is a mindset business. We help people fix the mindset and their relationships with themselves, with other people, with food, with exercise, and we let the body and the health be like a byproduct of doing that. So it's a great way of being able to incorporate it all together. And so that's primarily my background, is I help people with the relationships with exercise, with the relationships with food a little bit, because that's my backstory around binge eating a little bit and stuff. And then let their body be a byproduct of what we do. And obviously getting on top of pains and injuries and all them kind of things is kind of just the other part of it. But realistically, it's that mindset that we want to get going and moving forward with. My interesting fact, I'm trying to think of a good one at the minute.
It doesn't have to be funny.
I remember saying this one at uni, that it were like, no, it's a lie. I can't say that. It's like I used to carve the cane to the Kit Kats. But no, it was just a funny one I used to say at uni. But a kind of an interesting fact from me, I guess, is I invest in cryptocurrency, and I made a bit of money off Dogecoin when that first went live.
Yes. See, if there's one thing I've developed during COVID, is having a more kind of entrepreneurial mindset. So I've been looking into different ways of making residual income. So it's nice to see a similarly minded person. I'm not
definitely.
I've created like a crypto account, but I haven't dove in it in yet. But yeah, that's nice. I might hit you for some advice.
Yeah, man, do it.
Yeah, but I'll introduce myself to you guys as well as the new listeners to the podcast. So obviously, I'm Nathan Aday. I'm not a mental health expert at all. I didn't study it in uni or anything. I'm actually a creative. I'm an animator. I'm an artist. I've always had that artistic side to me. But I'd say in the past few years, I've had a real passion for media. I did media studies at A-level and GCSE. And even with the Mental Roots podcast, I've got, I think the main thing that inspired it actually was a commission that I got selected for to create a short film, which is going to be distributed by the BBC, which is amazing. And the film
Awesome,
is
mate.
called Mental Roots. It's funny because the title of the podcast came before the title of the film. So it's like the film inspired the podcast, but then the title of the podcast, you know,
Nice.
was transferred to the film. So the short film is like a fictional story about a young black male who's trying to navigate his mental health and all the complex things that are contributing to his breakdown, or what he calls a breakdown anyway. And the plan is I'm going to develop a series of short films that are inspired by the podcast. So I've already done a sequel to it, which focuses on black female experiences of mental health as well, based on some of the black female guests I've had earlier on in season 2. So it's like an audio visual series that the whole Mental Roots thing is. And the bigger vision really is just to use creativity, filmmaking, poetry, all sorts of things to help highlight the conversation on mental health, especially in the black community as well. So I'm playing more of like a bridge building role, kind of connecting people who have more of an expert knowledge, such as yourself, and channeling that, you know, information in a media and creative sort of way. So that's the Mental Roots vision overall. And yeah, I just finished my master's actually in visual communication. So I got my distinction, which is great, especially during a pandemic. You know, that's I think I've done pretty well. So yeah, and all my Mental Roots animation stuff was done for the coursework. So it's Mental Roots is taking over all aspects of my life, which is nice.
That's awesome, mate.
yeah.
Like really, really massive props to you for that, because I think building the bridge element side of it is something that needs to be done so much. Like that is the issue. There's the experts, and then there's the people that are going through it right now. And a lot of the time people don't know where to go and feel like they're going through things on their own. And if anyone who is listening to this podcast right now is dealing with anything, you are not on your own. I couldn't stress that enough. You are not on your own. There's a lot of people that are going through issues like you at the same time. There's a lot of people that have been through them and can give you, like I mentioned before, they've got the survival guide for what you're going through right now. So massive, massive props to you for that, mate. I think that kind of thing is what is needed in the world a little bit more as well.
Awesome. Thanks, man. So let's get into, I guess, the first main question. In every interview, I kind of ask my guests how they define the term mental health. And yeah, so let's start off with that. Adam Smith, just kind of define, you know, mental health. Everyone's talking about it now. As of the time we're recording, we've just had World Mental Health Day. And so, yeah, just when you hear the term mental health, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I think for me, it's understanding your emotions. Internal dialogue is absolutely essential, that you attach to those emotions as well. And it's understanding really that we don't ever feel emotions, we do the emotion. So if you can imagine when people say, I just feel really anxious, it's like, are you feeling anxious or are you doing anxious? Are you picking your fingers? Are you pulling at your hair? Are you constantly tapping your desk? Are you peeling off a label off a beer bottle? Are you always checking your phone? Are you thinking about yesterday? Are you, oh my God, but what about tomorrow? And my breathing becomes more shallow straight away and I start to panic. It's where people refer to it as an anxiety attack, a panic attack. There's no attack. And when you are feeling attacked, you feel the need to either attack back, you freeze, you run, or you defend, as opposed to just welcoming it, just understanding that it's an emotion. So for me, mental health really is understanding where it first began. It's just as important as physical health, because in my opinion, more, because if you can get this right, you get your head right, then you can get everything else correct. But most of our emotions, most of our beliefs, most of our standards and values are bedded in from a very young age. And it's just a standard that's been repeatedly done. So we become addicted to these behaviors the same way that people become addicted to alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, you name it. But we become very conditioned and very addicted to these things, even when we know they're not serving us. So if you look at like a recipe for a cake, You need all the ingredients to make sure the cake goes well. You know the structure, you know how they all need to go in, you know what heat to put it on, etc., etc. Some people miss out the ingredient. So straight away, it's not going to be the same level of quality of cake. Some people don't know what temperature to cook the cake at, for example, as well. So the reason why I'm using that as an example is if you can look at what your ingredients are in order to, get the cake, i.e., what are the ingredients for how I get anxious? So it might be somebody tells me I'm not good enough on social media. And then you go, right, what do I then do? Well, then I typically tend to rub my face and then my whole physiology changes. So I sit down in the chair like that. And then I get really angry. And then I start overthinking. And then once I'm so tired of being angry, I then become upset. I then become depressed, etc., etc. So if you can truly unpack every single element of your behavior when you're going through it, and this takes time and it's a skill, by the way, you can start to change the whole meaning around it. So mental health can be improved by, things that we do with our physical body as well. Just having the thought alone doesn't actually change anything. So if I can think positively, doesn't do anything. I can talk positively. I can use positive words. So I could sit in this physiology, really slump down, and I could go, I love myself. I feel amazing. Life's great. And your brain's going to go, what? But if you can sit back and you can put your chest out and you can put your shoulders back, and then you can go, I love myself. I feel incredible today. I'm going to impact the world in this way today. It becomes an incantation, not a word of affirmation. So you have to move your physical body in order to see a different result. So just by thinking positive thoughts, even by saying positive things, doesn't actually change the mental state. You have to do it with the physical body as well. So that's why it's mental health. You have to do something different other than just trying to get that right. So that's a long answer, but I'm really passionate about this.
Yeah, already, if I had a sound effects board, I'll be dropping bombs right now. Oh. No, that was really good. That was really good, and I'm glad you said that because, again, already we've established the link between the physical and the mental health, and even for me, I've had someone who's been like a family friend of mine who's she's had great coaches in her life for success and different things and mindset, and she's been coaching me in my mindset as well. And I've started using positive affirmations, but again, it's not just about writing them down and uttering them to yourself in the morning, but how are you training your body to receive that, and to materialize that. So for example, I can see it from here as I'm doing this interview. Who I am is the possibility of being coachable, organized, confident, efficient. It's about how, and something I'm trying to get better at is saying those things aloud. Is one thing to say it in your head or mutter it to yourself. Is another thing to say it aloud with expression. Because I'm sure you can probably break down the science of that better than I can in terms of how that affects your subconscious. But even for me, if you look on my personal Instagram page, I've started doing a push-up challenge, and me doing the push-ups, saying, okay, this week or this month, I want to do 5 or 10 more push-ups than last time. It's me training my brain that I can change habits in my life, because I do have some negative habits I'm trying to get rid of. But the exercise is part of training my body that I can overcome cycles that I've been in for a long time. So I deeply resonate with what you've just said. So thanks for that. Adam H.
Trying, right? We have doing or we have not doing. So if you can commit yourself to it, it creates certainty, you see. So one of our human needs is certainty. So by you being, you've got this, internal dialogue, which Hindley's probably going to touch on, so I won't go over it too much. Everyone's got an internal dialogue. The voice that speaks loudest wins. So if you're so certain that I'm going to do it, I am going to do it, I will do it, I must do it, is a much better place of going, yeah, I'm going to try to do some more press-ups this week, even when it's with a positive tone of voice and a positive posture and everything else. There's still not that certainty there, because only 5% of our thoughts are conscious. So if your conscious mind is, I'm going to do it, the 95% is going to go, no, you're not. What are you talking about? We've been here before. You've tried this before, right? But until you keep doing it and getting the calluses on your brain, that's going to then create the new unconscious mind. That's the difference. So once you can understand that just by positive thought alone, you're combating and fighting, air quote, against the 95% of unconscious thoughts that you've developed over a period of time. So it's going to take time to rewire those thoughts in order to create a new unconscious.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Before we continue, I just want to share with you something very briefly, something that's really been helping me with my concentration and productivity with all the work I've been doing, finishing uni, finishing the first 2 Mental Roots short films, which I can't wait to share with you. All of that stuff, in addition to the podcast, needs some high level concentration and motivation, especially during a pandemic. So if you're a busy guy like me, you've got loads of things going on and you want something that can boost your productivity, I highly recommend some natural caffeine energy shots that I've been using, which you can mix with tea or water or whatever you want. It's got a nice rich raspberry flavor packed with vitamins and really good natural caffeine, which doesn't give you the crash and high calories like a lot of high caffeine drinks that are commercially sold. So if you want to order those shots for yourself and see how they can help you, then check out the link in the written description for this episode on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And if you want to let me know personally how they help you when you do order them and try them for yourself, then message me at my personal Instagram page, which is at Nath_a day. So if you're watching on YouTube, it is right here on the screen. You can see it for yourself. But if you're just listening on a podcast platform, it is at NATH_ADDAI. Message me there to find out more about that product and any other products that I've been using, because I've been using other products as well as different workout techniques and things to help improve my physical health, which in turn improves my mental health. So thanks for listening. Let's get back into the episode. Enjoy.
When you're a rugby player, the only time you should be trying to try or trying to score a try. That's the only time that word should be used. So we are or we aren't. But on to your question around what mental health is to me, for me, it becomes the relationship with yourself. So as Smith said, he knows that I'm passionate about this when we're talking about internal dialogue. So you have conversations with everybody else in your life. You have the relationships, obviously, with a partner, with friends, with family. But 24 hours a day, you're having conversations with yourself. You're having thoughts when you're sleeping, you're dreaming, you're having thoughts. These are all unconscious thoughts. So if this language and this relationship with yourself isn't to a high standard or isn't serving you well, or you're talking to you, if you talk to, like say the saying, if you talk to others the way you talk to yourself, you'd never have any friend. If your relationship with yourself is to that standard, and you've got that low standard for it right now of that you're talking to yourself like crap, then you're not. That's what mental health is to me. We need to change that relationship, or that's what mental unhealth is. Like unhealthy mental health is the poor relationship that you have with yourself and the internal dialogue that you use. So again, it comes from the words like the trying. I'm really struggling to get up on a morning. You're not struggling. Struggling to me is someone who's got to walk 3 miles to get water on a morning. That's struggling to me. You've got a slight little challenge to get out of bed because you hit the snooze button twice. That's not a struggle. So it's the words that we use every single day, like the trying, like there's light at the end of the tunnel, I'm getting there. All these kind of things is like, where's there? I want to go there because everyone talks about it and it sounds class.
Literally right before I started this call, I watched that video where you were talking about it. See if I can find it actually. One sec. But yeah, it was one of your YouTube videos. I think I accessed it through your bio link on Instagram. But it's talking about there, and I'm definitely guilty of that. And over COVID, again, I've learned a lot over COVID. But one of the other big lessons is where you're at right now is what counts. You know, the the version of your life that you want, you can create that right now. It's all about what you do now. There's no perfect, destiny or anything. Like I am the change I want to see, basically. And that's a mantra that I've been thinking more about. I am the change I want to see. And that's helped me be able to, for example, carry on with this podcast. Because when I look at, specifying the conversation on mental health amongst black men, there's barely any platforms doing that. I look at lots of other predominantly black male kind of podcasts and shows and different things, and there's, not to say that comedy isn't bad, but obviously there's a lot of comedy, and on a deeper level in the black community especially, we use comedy as a way to navigate very difficult things that we deal with. And of course, we think of your favorite comedians, many of them are black men, so I understand that comedy has its place, but I feel like there's still a massive gap in the market in terms of black men just putting down the defense and just being like, look, this is the reality of how we feel. So that's kind of the gap I'm trying to fill. And at times I felt like giving up because obviously I've struggled with my own mental health over COVID, finishing my degree, having something we've talked about a lot on this podcast is many young black Brits growing up will relate to hearing the phrase from their parents, oh, you just have to work twice as hard as your peers because of, the structures and blah, blah, blah. And so for me, as someone who I've based a lot of my identity in working hard, right? Because that's what my parents had to do when they came from Ghana to make a future for themselves here and their family. So kind of what I've been unpacking with all my Mental Roots content, including the animation, is this idea of being like a first generation Brit, and many immigrant families will relate to this. Many British born young people who are born in immigrant families. It's this idea of, I have to break new ground for the family. I better not let my parents down because they've sacrificed so much to be here. And so we're so focused on being pioneers and, bettering our families that when we do struggle mentally, we kind of write it off and we compare ourselves as like, well, my parents went through much worse, so why should I be complaining? But over COVID, I've learned actually I need to take much better care of how I speak to myself, as you were saying, Mr. Hindley. Like, why am I saying these things to myself? Just because it seems normal doesn't mean it's right. So that's the journey I've been on. I know I went on a tangent a little bit, but
no, that's
yeah,
exactly right, though, mate. Like the phrase "comparison is the thief of joy," that always gets thrown around the positive. So, comparing yourself to influencers and guys that you went to school with that are now really wealthy and you're not, or whatever. I agree. That does mean it's the thief of joy. It can also be in the negative, though, because it downgrades your experience. And no matter what pain it is you're experiencing, it's your pain. It's, the same way your fingerprint, it's unique to you. So is the pain of a child in a, air quote, perfect upbringing that's constantly ridiculed by an abusive father, is that not pain? Of course it is. Is a young black man right now struggling with his identity and his thought processes based on what he thinks he should or shouldn't be, not pain right now? Of course it is. So it doesn't really matter what your go through is, it's yours. Yeah. There's always going to be someone on the surface with it worse off than you. But it's like when people, are really wealthy, let's say, and you come from, oh, it's all right for them, their dad was rich. Well, straight away, they're at a little bit of a disadvantage here because everything's been handed to them. So now they might have to work 10 times harder to earn the respect of people that they don't even know. Because irrespective of their success, they're always going to be tarnished with the label of, it's all right for you, you've got daddy's money. Yeah. Which is when they go through,
and when they go through bad things, it's more traumatic for them because they haven't built the resilience for that. I just had an interview actually on Tuesday, as of the time we're recording this, with a guy called Shocker. He's a British rapper, and yeah, he's a massive advocate for mental health, and yeah, he was talking about how actually growing up in a single parent home, his dad wasn't around. His because his mum had some miscarriages before he came along, she kind of spoiled him and did her best to, you know, really make sure he was happy. And because of that, he had a very safe upbringing. So when, long story short, he had, before he became a solo artist, he was in a group, and they got signed, and then the label dropped them. That was a very traumatic experience, which led to him going down a very long spiral of mental health, because he all his life things were going for him, and when suddenly something went wrong, it had a lot more of an impact. So yeah, that's just to add on to what you were saying.
Yeah.
It goes back to that what I mentioned before about the resilience, and the showing true strength is the resilience times the vulnerability. Now the fact that that guy is showing true strength now because he's been through something, so he's resilient to what he's been through, and now he's been vulnerable and sharing the fact that of the emotions he went through and sharing his story by being a mental health advocate as well. So to me, that is true strength. He's showing true strength and being a pioneer for mental health within black men, which is awesome. That is exactly what needs to be happening. Not obviously black men is a community that massively needs it, but just not with that, with men in general, because it is something that is, yeah, exactly. Someone who is in that environment even more so, where showing vulnerability is probably really often seen as weakness, because you need to be a hard guy that doesn't show anything like that to be in that rapping world. So so yeah, that's massive, and it's so positive with that, and it's like it all leads back into, like I say, the internal dialogue, and going back to the kind of the question, what is mental health? It's like, what is mental health to you? And it's like, if we do improve that relationship with ourselves, just like we'd work on if you're having trouble in a relationship with a partner, you'd work on that relationship, you'd try and communicate better together. But that's exactly it. You need to have that communication. You need to have that time. When people say focus on yourself, it's focusing on building this relationship with yourself, because the easiest way that I could do it, and I referred to it in that video that you watched earlier, was it's stopping treating the voice in your head, the thoughts, stop treating them like it's you, because you'll treat yourself like crap. Start acting like the voice in your head is another person, is someone else. It's someone who's living in your head rent free. It's a roommate in a sense. And if you start treating this voice like a roommate, like somebody else, because you wouldn't talk to someone else like crap, you then develop a better relationship with that. And then when you start treating that better, that voice better, that person better, however you want to look at it, they start treating you better as well. And they start treating you with a little bit more respect. And it just goes round and round and round. And like Smith was saying about building the callus on the mental health, and you need to really you need to dial in and use the brain like a muscle to build using the correct language. It's like you don't build a bicep overnight. You don't build positive internal dialogue overnight. You need to constantly, when you're using that negative language, you need to pick yourself up on it. And it's like doing a rep in the gym. It's like picking up a weight. You pick yourself up on it, you've done that again, and you've done that again, and you'll keep doing it until you stop doing it. And it just takes time.
Just kinder to yourself. People, be kind, be kind, be kind. Great. Start with you. Start being kind to you. Put the old rusty axe down that you keep hitting yourself in the back with. That's a phrase that I say to people. Are we ready to put the axe away yet? Because it goes in the should shed, because the should shed is full of shit, right? So, but I should really lose more weight. I should really reach out to that long lost friend that I haven't connected with. I should. It's like, well, is it important to you or is it not? Because if you're living in the world of shoulds, either should have or should do's, implies that what you've done previously wasn't good enough. And it implies that you're not necessarily in the right frame of mind to push forward and achieve it. Thus meaning you can then use it as the rusty old axe to keep hitting yourself with, because you haven't committed to something. You either have to be certain or you're not certain. There's no in between. So it depends on which approach you take. And when people refer to it as an inner villain or an inner demon, or I'm in a constant battle, like Hindley said, there's no battle, there's no sword, there's no shield, there's no dragon to slay. It's just you and your thoughts, and we have 2,000 to 3,000 thoughts every hour. But, you know, if you just have a thought of, let's say you, I don't know, you're doing some work, you're doing some of your sketches, and then your ex-girlfriend pops into your mind. It's not, it shouldn't be, oh, what am I thinking of her for? Oh my God, she's such a bitch. No, it's just like, oh, I wonder why that came into my mind. Like, that was random. No problem. It's just a thought, right? We all have them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, but it's either stored pain or it's released pain. If it's released pain, it will no longer hurt you. If I called you, you know, if at school, for example, someone called me a poopy head, I'd be like, no, a poopy head. You know, if someone called me it now, I'd be like, right, okay, cool, no worries. But if they said it to me, you know, something else that would cut deep, like, oh, I actually don't think your business is actually going to be successful, and you know, you might go, oh, hang on a second, that's fresh pain. Then I can either decide to store that pain or I can release that pain. So when people have stored pain, let's say, for example, oh, my football coach told me at 7 years old I'd never make it. First of all, that was when you were a boy, and now you're a fully grown man. So I'm 33 now, and that football manager in particular may have just been having a bad day, but I've carried it around as a dead weight because I've always had that early association of not being enough. That was an emotional anchor. So if that's setting as the anchor, everything else that then disturbs my inner peace is going to go related to that first incident of not feeling enough. So let's say I fail an exam at school. Boom, I'm 7 years old again and I'm being rejected. A girl says no to a date. Boom, I'm 7 years old again because I've not dealt with that pain. I've not dealt with that pain of not being enough. So you can either store it or you can release it. The same way that an iPhone, when you have too many apps, too much storage, release some storage, right? Or storage full, it'll say, or storage almost full. You've got to release some apps. You've got to get rid of some of the crap. It's the same with your thoughts. It's not serving you. So stop holding on to it and start learning how to release it.
Yeah, I like that. And even to add on to the apps analogy as well, when, like, if you don't get rid of the old crap, you can't make room for the new stuff. You know, the new, it's not just removing the negative thoughts, but it's replacing them with wholesome thoughts, replacing them with something better. So for me, one thing I've learned is that, for example, if a negative thought comes, there is the option to just ignore it and just try and find something to distract me. But a better response would be acknowledging it, you know, not running from the demon, you know, this, because when we use that terminology, we're giving it too much power. We're turning it into something that, oh, I have to run from it, rather than, oh, it's just a thought, I can confront it. So for example, back to maybe the X analogy, the response to that could be, yep, that was then and this is now. I have the opportunity to move on to a better relationship. At the time, I handled it wrong because I didn't know XYZ. She handled it wrong because she didn't know XYZ. So it's confronting it and looking at it from a different angle. That's one piece of advice that another, I think, therapist shared with me as well, which I've also found quite inspirational. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about you create empathy for the situation, you create empathy for that person. So there's a chance that that person could have just been a dickhead. And there is always that chance. There's always the possibility that that person was not, it wasn't that they was having a bad day. There wasn't that was doing anything wrong. They were just being a dick. But at the same point, that doesn't matter to you. That doesn't matter in your head and in your mind. So you create empathy around the situation. You look potentially a little bit further rather than at that person in the present moment, in that raw moment that where it happened to you. You think a little bit more about their life. It's like, okay, that football coach, oh, I imagine that, he works in the corporate world. He's probably got a really stressful job. I bet his boss are up his ass all the time about his work, and maybe this were affecting his home life, and his wife were mad at him, and then all of this kind of came into an account, so that he had one harsh comment at me, which then I've held on to. And it's like, if you create empathy for that situation and go like, I bet you're actually really bad for him that he were doing all this stuff around work and not getting stuff done, and that maybe his home life are a bit upset and stuff at the minute, then you create that empathy, then suddenly you don't feel as bad from him lashing out at you. And remembering that could be the truth. That could be a complete lie that you've made up in your head. But it serves you better to be able to release that pain and release what you've gone through, because you've created empathy around what the situation could be. Like I said, there's people out there that are just dickheads, but there is that point of where if we can shift that mentality towards it a little bit, and you can change the emotion and you can create empathy, that's where dealing with the childhood trauma that Smith's very good at helping people get through with is where it is really positive, and where it can have like a really positive effect on deleting their maps that you've had stored in your phone for ages.
Yeah, and the thing is, people think empathy is just coming from a place of understanding, of going, so for example, if you lost your mother and I lost my mother, oh, I understand, that's really awful. That's what people think empathy is. When in reality, empathy is understanding why an individual did something in that exact moment, truly understanding what were they trying to gain out of this? What was their positive intention? Every action and every emotion begins with a positive intention. Even in the most extreme circumstances, like murder, for example, the positive intention of the attacker is, I'm going to try gain significance, which is one of my main human needs, over this individual. If you can do it as extreme as that, you can do it with day-to-day stuff. So what's my positive intention around feeling anxious or being anxious? Is to try to protect you against something that's an unknown, perhaps, or it's something that you've done before and you're trying to protect yourself from feeling a pain that you're not familiar with. You know the pain of being anxious because you've done it your whole life. But God forbid I actually put myself out there and, oh, should I release that song? Should I put this painting forward? Should I do that? But what if? And it's like, what if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? But you know the pain of living in what if it goes wrong? You don't know the pain associated to what if it goes right. So whenever you go through a situation that is disturbing you in some way, don't ask, what can I do about this? Ask, which part of me is disturbed by this? So if someone insulted you online, let's say, oh, your podcast's a load of rubbish, you're like, not, oh, I'll tell him, or whatever. It's what part of me is disturbed by that comment? Probably my ego. Why is it my ego? Well, probably because when I was 10, someone told me I wasn't going to amount to anything. Maybe that was it. And I feel like this was a big accomplishment. Maybe it's my work ethic. Maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe the sound quality could have been better. Maybe I could have done that better next time. So if you can start asking yourself that question, which part of me is disturbed by this, and make it relatable to just about any scenario, you can start to change the meaning attached to it again.
So that is it. That is the end of the first part of my chat with 2/3 of the A-Game Consultancy. Great guys, and they've got great stories that they're going to get into in the next part. So both Adams are going to really dissect kind of their experience growing up as young men, things like body image, dieting, and if I remember correctly, dyspraxia, the condition, a condition that Adam Smith has. Adam will go into more detail about that. So that's going to be great. You don't want to miss it. Once again, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review if you can as well. And of course, follow us on all social media platforms. Once again, thanks for listening. Keep it real. Love yourself. And yeah, take care until next week.